(2026) meeting of the Volusia-Flagler TPO Technical Coordinating Committee meeting. Can we get a roll call?
Adrian Calderon.
Here.
Brian Woodward.
Here.
Lynn Herstein. Stephen Babb.
Here.
Chris Carson.
Here.
Matthew
Present.
Reshta Somji. Elena Talley. Bill Freeman.
Here.
Simone Kenny.
Here.
Roy Seeger. Lisa Davina. Jonathan Ward.
Present online.
Hamid Tabassian. Richard Zion. Daniel Nicholas is excused. Trevor Martin. Brian Walker.
Present online, on the phone.
Lee Vet. Shane Corbin.
Here.
Bernice Gonzalez. Noah Jose Papa.
Here.
Mark Carrette.
Here.
Patty Rippey. Darren Lear. Tim Berman.
Here.
Becky Whitty.
Here.
Omar Atala. Ralph Hessler.
Yep.
James Roberts. Kaya Powell. Have a physical count.
And can we get a motion to allow virtual attendance?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and then we'll move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to make any comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. To our action items, we have item 3A, review and approval of the March 17th, 2026 TCC meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
And a second from Brian Woodward. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we'll move on to item 3B, review and approval of resolution 2026-05, amending the fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 29-30 transportation improvement program.
So this TIP amendment request is to add additional construction funding for a project that is currently within our TIP. It's the truck parking along I-4. This is the eastbound Volusia County site. So there's some additional funding that was required on the construction phase of a little over $19 million. If there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to address those.
Seeing none, can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
And a second. And can we have a roll call vote, please?
Adrian Calderon.
Yes.
Brian Woodward.
Yes.
Stephen Babb.
Yes.
Chris Carson. Matthew West.
Yes.
Elena Talley. Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Simone Kenny.
Yes.
Jonathan Ward.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Shane Corbin.
Yes.
Noel Eaton. Jose Papa.
Yes.
Mark Carrette.
Yes.
Tim Berman.
Yes.
Ralph Hessler.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
And item 3C, review and recommend approval of resolution adopting the fiscal year 26-27 and fiscal year 27-28 Unified Planning Work Program and authorizing the execution of the FDOT Metropolitan Planning Organization Agreement.
Over the last couple of months, we've been talking about the UPWP and deliverables and projects to include in there. And just as a recap, the UPWP is a 2-year plan. It's our work plan that we use here at the staff level. So it outlines how we spend our time, not just attending meetings, but also any work that we do with consultants or deliverables. There's also a budget component to the UPWP where we identify how we spend the funds that we receive through our federal allocation. So anything from staff salaries to projects we're working on to office expenses such as rent and all the other expenses that we have just to operate day-to-day operations. So there's the budget component that's tied to it as well. We did submit the draft document to FDOT and FHWA as well as open it up for a 30-day public review and comment period. We did receive some comments back from FDOT as well as FHWA. The FDOT comments were all editorial. So there was nothing there that substantiated any revisions to the document. There were a couple of comments from FHWA that did require some minor revisions. Again, nothing substantial. But they surrounded just, updating our financial aid numbers on the front of the documents. When we identify deliverables, we need to identify a month and a year that those deliverables will occur. In the draft document, we just had which fiscal year we would be working on. So we added the month to that. Making sure that any final signed statements that are required are in the final document, and we get those statements signed by our chair following the adoption. So once tomorrow the board meeting meets in the morning, the board meets in the morning, and once this goes through and all that gets signed, those will be included in the final document. So we did receive some comments, but nothing substantial. There is one change to the financial tables and working through DOT and our contracts. You may recall last month we did deobligate funds from our current UPWP so we can use them in the new UPWP, and we had a significant amount of PL funds that we deobligated, a little over $1.3 million. There is a rule where we have to spend down 80% of our PL funds before we can flex additional SU funds for the purpose of studies for the planning. So since we deobligated a significant amount of money, we need to spend that PL funds before we can spend any SU dollars. So we removed the $200,000 allocation of SU funds that we typically use for consultant studies, and we've backfilled those with the PL funds. So that way we can spend that money down and get beyond that 80% threshold. So that's the only difference to the tables that were presented. So if there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to address those. Otherwise, we'd be looking for a recommendation for approval.
Sorry. Have those planning studies been identified
For the
for the UPW, or is it just you're going to use it for planning studies, but you haven't identified?
We haven't identified it or programmed them yet. It's just really kind of a box fund that we have. And so the way the original draft was, there was a portion of those funds came from PL and a small portion from SU. So now we've added more PL, but we've taken out the SU.
Great, if there's no other questions, I'll take a motion. Motion and a second, and then we also need a roll call vote.
Adrian Calderon,
Yes.
Brian Woodward,
Yes.
Stephen Bath,
Yes.
Chris Carson,
Yeah.
Elena Kelly,
Yes.
Yes.
Brian Walker,
Yes.
Jane Corbin,
Yes.
Jose Papa,
Yes.
Correct,
Here. Sorry, yes. Push it off there.
Tim Berman,
Yes.
Becky Whitty,
Yes.
Ralph Hessler.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. So moving on to our presentations and discussion items. We have item A, presentation and discussion of the proposed Reed Ellis Road Trail. Seems the presenter was unable to make it to today's meeting, so hopefully we'll be able to reschedule them. So we'll move on to item B, which is presentation and discussion of Bike Walk Central Florida's Best Foot Forward for Pedestrian Safety Program.
For Bike Walk Central Florida will be presenting today.
I'm Kenzie, I'm the program coordinator. That's the program. That's a program within Bike Walk Central. So if you're unfamiliar with how our program works, before I get into the data for Volusia-Flagler County, back when we first started this program in 2012, it was loosely based off of a 2013 business study out of Danville that looked at high visibility enforcement on driver yield behavior. So we took that. We also incorporated education, engineering, evaluation to look at kind of changing the culture between drivers and walkers in Central Florida. Like I said, we originated in Seminole, Orange, and Osceola County. We've been rapidly expanding over the past couple of years. Our efforts in Flagler County are funded through the TPO, and our efforts in Volusia County through the end of this year are currently funded by FUT. We're currently in the process of expanding into St. John's and Duval County as I speak, which is very exciting. We work with tons of folks to kind of get our message across: public works, planning, law enforcement, the health departments, and school boards are huge partners in our program and making us successful. Before I get into the data for the counties, I wanted to kind of go over how we collect the data so you don't have any questions on that. We will go out with our data collection team to the crosswalks that are selected by our partners at the beginning of the fiscal year. They'll take photos to kind of back up any changes in between data collections because we go out every few months. They'll set up flags at what we call a safe stopping distance. So that's based on the speed limit. They'll put out little flags or cones. That tells them when to step into the road, showing intent when the driver's approaching. They'll cross 20 times, 2 different times of the day. So we'll go out in the morning and then we'll come back before dawn in the evening to get a good representative count. During these collections, we'll also make note of any bike and pedestrian activity in the area, see how popular it is, and then we'll make note of any driver behavior. So if the drivers are distracted, if they're aggressive, things like that, just so that we can provide our partners with that type of data as well. Last year, we were curious on what low-cost engineering countermeasure was the most effective in improving what we call driver yield rate, which is the percentage of drivers yielding to pedestrians at the crosswalk. We found that those in-street flexible delineator posts were the most effective, getting driver yield rate up, and they improved at our locations that we sampled about 30% in 2025. They also looked at the difference between speed humps and raised crosswalks. A lot of people think that they have the same effect. We found that speed humps ahead of the crosswalk are actually much more effective in slowing drivers down and increasing those who stop for pedestrians. And then we also were curious on beacon type because they differ in how expensive they are. And we want to see if people are getting the bang for their buck. Circular flashing beacons that are flashing constantly, we found that they had no effect on driver yield. We think it's because drivers just kind of get used to it and it's back of mind for them. RFPs came in second. We found that out of all the crosswalks that we sampled in our program in the 9 counties, we're hovering about 73% driver yield rate. And then PHVs were at the highest compliance. We find that they kind of hover around the same driver yield rate as a signalizer. So last year, continuing on improvements over in Daytona Beach, we partnered several times with the police department, hosting what we call Operation Best Forward. So we go out, they'll put a decoy law enforcement officer, they'll cross the road. The car doesn't stop, they get pulled over. Depends on the agency. Sometimes with the warnings, sometimes with only. It's $164 and 3 points on your license if you fail to go through pedestrian in a crosswalk, marked and unmarked. And we also went back out after these enforcements kind of did what we call a sign waving. So we take those signs that you see with the officers. We invite partners, law enforcement out there, and kind of just stand by the side of the road, increase visibility. Through these efforts, we saw last year an 11% increase in driver yield rate out of this location. Over in Ormond Beach, Volusia County Sheriff's Office took a different approach. They did only enforcement. They went out several times over the past couple of years to find drivers that it's a lot of stop for pedestrians. They frequented this outside of Operation Best Foot Forward as well, just to kind of increase that visibility, and we saw a 16%. These are current crosswalks that we're looking at in Volusia County right now. Our 4 crosswalks are at the top, and we have our baseline locations at the bottom. These are locations that were suggested by our partners that we went out one time to kind of get an idea of the BYR into those. A couple of the ones that I wanted to point out, the New Smyrna Beach crosswalk, this was a location that we decided to move on from last year, just because it was kind of hovering around the same driver yield rate, mid-30s. We were notified that they made some improvements last year. We wanted to go out and see how they improved it. They added some signage, they repainted it, moved it south. They also added some ADA accessible ramps, and that seemed to do the trick. And now it's almost to our 66% high compliance order. And then over in Ponce Inlet, the police department has been super supportive with our enforcement efforts. They've started kind of doing their own pedestrian safety enforcements outside of our OBFF window to remind their visitors and residents that they need to stop for people in the crosswalk. On to Flagler County. So similar to the Daytona Beach crosswalk, kind of wanted to see what enforcement and education combined would do to improve driver yield rate. Flagler Beach Police Department went out, super supportive. They ran an enforcement. Commissioner Dance was able to make it out. And then a couple weeks later, we followed up with the TPO and the police department again to conduct one of our sign meetings. And this led to a 7% sustained increase in 2025 for driver yield. And then we were able to make it out last year before the construction of the pier started, just to kind of get before and after data on the RFP versus the P. We saw that the RFP was hovering about 63%, which is considered low for data for something like that installed. After when construction was wrapping up, it wasn't completely done, so this might be a little overinflated for the driver yield rate. It was sitting at about 90% for driver compliance. And these are our current crosswalks in Flagler County. A few of them we carried over from last year just to see if they made any improvement. Flagler County Sheriff's Office has been really great with doing enforcements on their own time as well at some of these signalized intersections. We actually just wrapped up a fall operation for the first one of this year, and Flagler County issued 73 warnings and citations for drivers that failed to yield at the Belterre and one crosswalk in 2 days. Besides that, there's nothing really out of the ordinary at these locations besides the Belterre Elementary location. That was a location that the Sheriff's Office plans to put more attention at. Hopefully, it's Operation Best Foot Forward, which will be deemed back to school. We found that last year, 8 of our crosswalks improved 100% of the time when they were enforced over years. 2 different seasons each year, so quarter 1. And we're on roads 4 travel lanes or less. We went back the year before that, and we found that 4 of our crosswalks met this criteria, and we're about the same improving 14% from these conditions. And just to shout out some of the events that we've been at in Volusia-Flagler. We were out at the Manatee Festival earlier this year. It's a great event. It's super busy. We get a lot of testimony from people who like the white biking walk in the area. And then we were out at Dirksen and Mansion, which was one of our crosswalks that has been since established in Volusia County. The sheriff's office ran like an individual pedestrian detail based on the natural pedestrian traffic at this location, pulling people over to the field. And then we had some of our volunteers from HCA trauma to come out and give some signs. And at the beginning of February, we were out with Bunnell Police Department, elementary school, and the TPO. At the beginning, before school, we were kind of to people heading to school that morning, just reminding them this was the location that the crossing guard was hit at the end of December, beginning of December last year. So kind of wanted extra visibility. This is a scary location, even though it's only to cross. And then we were at the Connecting to Palm Coast Expo. We heard a lot of concern about e-bikes and e-scooters among school-age children. So we wanted to see last year if our sign waving event was relatively had an impact on driver yield rate compared to enforcement, because enforcement operations are a lot to coordinate and it takes a lot of folks to come together. You can do sign weavings more frequently, so it's just easier that way to supplement enforcement outside of those structured periods throughout the year that we have the operation best board. We saw that 8 of our crosswalks met this criteria last year, and they improved about 11%. Compared to enforcement efforts, it's only about a difference of 2%. So this is definitely something that we're interested in doing more often with our partners. And then we usually ask people at events, we have this little questionnaire that asks them if they can point out marked versus unmarked crosswalks and here's the right of way. We found that a lot of people, including adults, can identify where pedestrians have the right of way at marked intersections, but they usually don't realize that they also have the right of way at unmarked intersections as well. Bikes are always a huge concern for applicants. These are our stats from last year. Our team of 2 data collectors crossed the road over 21,000 times, just in 2025 alone. We hosted over 100 details with local law enforcement over the 9 counties, and we were at 97 events and presentations, reaching 16,000 people. These are individual conversations, so we're not counting the amount of people at events. We're counting the number of people that heard people are talking to us. It's really cool. Any questions?
So, what the sign waving events? What's the duration? What people go out for? What period of time?
Yeah, so we're out for about 1.5 to 2 hours. We usually try and structure them in the morning just because it's less hot outside.
And so, when do you then test the driver yield rate? Is it during those events or some period afterwards?
So I schedule them before we're known to go out and take data, so it'll be in between. We usually go out 5 times a year, depending on the partner. So for Volusia-Flagler, we do the crosswalks 5 times a year, so I'll schedule that sign waving in between data collections just so that we can have it before and after.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's our FDOT report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Just a few items today. As normal, your construction report for March is in your packet or online, and you have hyperlinks to detailed register updates. To get started, a couple of projects that are starting construction soon. We've got State Road 44 from Riverside Drive to Soda Drive with maintenance, resurfacing, and pedestrian curb ramp upgrades. That actually started last weekend. It was scheduled to start in May, but we got a jump start on it and it got going early. The next one we have is US 1 over Boulder Creek Bridge, and that's the replacement. It's going to be a replacement of the northbound and southbound bridges, expected to start in May. Next up, each year, the Federal Highway Administration recognizes the 20th through the 24th of April as Work Zone Safety Awareness Week. And it reminds drivers that the road work is happening across the country and on all kinds of roads. The people working in those zones deserve to get home safely at the end of the day. Work zones may be temporary, but the risks they present are real. So I'd like to share a video that FDOT put together to share some stories of our employees and the importance of work zone awareness.
But the impact of a crash can be permanent. We all want to get home safely every day. That includes the men and women in TV. Work Zone Awareness Week brings attention to the important role we all play in keeping crews safe in program instruction zones.
On the job board 1 week, taken out to the project where I was going to be toward a flagging operation. I had a stop sign up. And I heard a loud noise behind me. I felt an arm come around me and pull me back. And all of a sudden, an 18-wheeler came running by me at about 55 miles an hour or better, this far from my face. I can still feel the wind passing to this day. And if it had not been for my coworker at the time yanking me back, it would have been just like that. I would have been in eternity, not standing here talking to you.
You can have a significant impact on reducing the number of injuries and fatalities if you keep these things in mind when driving through a work zone. Be alert. Anything can occur in the work zone. Watch for changes to the roadway, including shifting lanes. Minimize distractions. Put the phone down. In Florida, it's illegal to use a mobile device in a handheld manner when driving through a work zone. Don't speed. Sometimes speed limits are lower in work zones. Don't tailgate. But more than half of all work zone crashes. Expect the unexpected. Always keep an eye out for workers and equipment.
Working down on State Road 415, which is a rural 2-lane highway with shoulder. My lead inspector, she was sitting in her truck. We were standing there talking. She had her door open, and I was standing there facing her. And when all of a sudden we heard a noise, I had to immediately spin around and throw myself onto the truck because of a semi-truck carrying trusses through her door. It went straight past my chest and hit her door and took it right off. And the driver wasn't even aware he did. He just hit it.
It's Work Zone Awareness Week, and every day after, do your part. Slow down, stay alert, and follow the rules. Let's work together to protect everyone on the road and get everyone home safe. Safe actions save lives.
You may also see some work zone awareness information out on social media that we're putting out. If you see it, share it. Make sure maybe we can save some lives and make sure we keep awareness for our work zones. Next up, we have the Central Florida Safety Summit coming up. This is our 3rd annual Safety Summit that's going to be held in St. Cloud this year on Friday, May 8th. Our Central Florida Safety Summit is an annual event. It's to celebrate and spread the awareness of the efforts made by our local governments, transportation organizations, law enforcement, advocacy groups, schools, and FDOT to improve safety on local roadways. It's a good event to get together, talk with folks in the community, see rewards that are given out for hard work. Then that's on Friday, May 8th. The tickets are $35 a piece, and there's a link up here on the screen that you can purchase those tickets. We're not going to have a closing date. We're just going to sell them until they're out. Once they're out, we're going to close the tickets to purchase. So if you'd like to go, it's a good time. Go ahead and purchase your tickets via those on our FDOT website. And then to close, I'll mention a little bit about our tentative work program development cycle kickoff. It is that time of year again. Our District 5 tentative work program for fiscal years 28 to 32 is now underway. There are statewide program planning workshops that are scheduled for April, May, June, and July. And as we start the 2026 development cycle, we're reviewing all program projects thoroughly to ensure every required phase is included in your fiscal year 28 through 32 requests. And then you have, as normal, our resources on the screen for CFO Roads, I-4, and our safety office to get additional information, updates, materials, how-to videos, all on these resources. Other than that, I will be around if you'd like to speak afterwards and go over any projects or questions you may have.
Thank you. All right, and then item D, we have our Volusia County and Flagler County construction reports, which I believe are in the packet. If anybody has any questions on those specifically. If not, we can move on to staff comments.
So one comment is, we started working on our next TIP, which covers fiscal years 2027 to 2031. And I know FDOT has been reaching out to some of you if you have projects that are currently programmed to identify whether or not there's updated costs. So please make sure you're responsive to their inquiries as they're working through, their requirements and schedules as well. But next month, we will be bringing a draft of the next 5-year tip, and then for adoption, final adoption in June. That's all I have.
Do we have any member comments?
I know some time ago we were talking about the interlocals expanding the TPO.
Yes. So we got just recently, about a week ago, we got the okay from FDOT to send that out to all of the member governments. So we'll be sending those out for you all to take to your commissions and councils for final signature on that plan. We'll be working directly with the city managers, but also, they may come to you for questions. So we'll copy you on the correspondence as well, the TCC members. Okay.
All right, and then please take a look at the information items that are in the back of your packet. No question on those. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.